Hello everyone, it's time for another live look at the astrology. My name is Katie Sweetman, and this is your look at the astrology for March 9th through 15th, 2026. So yeah, hard to believe that we are halfway through March, just about. It's that time of year. I know that we're an international audience, but the clock's changed. So now it is the daytime part of our yearly connection. And yeah, maybe you're still getting used to the time change. And if you're like, what time change? It means that you are either in Europe or Australia or, gosh, where else have the clocks not changed? So perhaps England as well, and maybe even Portugal. So for those that don't know who I am, my name is Katie Sweetman, and I'm an astrologer and psychic medium located here in the rolling hills of Central Maryland. And every week we gather live to look at the astrology. You hear me say it every week. The astrology is 50%. You are the other 50%. And something that I've been talking about, perhaps even the past few times we've been together to various degrees, we are coming to the end of the astrological year. So Pisces season, it is the last month, the last sign of the astrological year. So it means that we have reached a sign that brings us all the way to the end, meaning every sign of the zodiac, it acts as a step in a ladder. It acts as a next stage for us to grow and evolve in. And when we get to Pisces, we get to a sign that in actuality, it's not of this world. And when I speak about signs, yes, you might sort of see reflections and say a sun sign, but in reality, I'm not talking about a sun sign. I'm talking about an energy and an archetype. And Pisces, it sort of stands at the end of a long journey, and a journey that begins each year with the sun in Aries. And so I don't know why people want to call me right now, but we will turn that off FaceTime. So for those, I gotta get my brain back. So it is Mercury retrograde. I tried to just sort of keep a really chill attitude about Mercury retrograde in general, but sometimes things get a little bit screwy and wonky. But yeah, still wonky energy. That's the thing, everybody. It's not just Pisces season. We just had 2 eclipses. We had a solar eclipse back on February 17th. We had a lunar eclipse just last week on March the 3rd. And wonky energy, it kind of goes hand in hand with eclipse season. And so eclipse season is a time every 6 months where it's like the curtain comes down on one act, the curtain comes up on another. It's like I have this hair in the middle of my face. And it's time for a new scene in our lives. And so a lot has changed, to say the least, in the last 4 weeks. It doesn't mean necessarily something has happened in your life, but we had a lot of gear shifts in February. So what I was saying before my friend decided to FaceTime me when she knows that I'm not available, but what I was starting to say is that Pisces represents the end of the zodiac. It is the end of a great journey throughout all of the 12 signs of the zodiac. And when we reach Pisces, we have stepped outside of our physical reality. And that's why I said Pisces is an archetype of manifestation. It's a personality that you may know, but in reality, we are looking at a season that brings us outside of our physical plane. It is a water sign. It is about feeling, intuition, dreams, memories, past lives, if you even believe in that. And it prepares us for a new cycle. And so we need Pisces. Pisces represents a very necessary stage so that new life can begin. So right now, I know that it's a Mercury retrograde. I know that we are in that sort of space. In fact, it's the last week of the lunar month, give or take. I know it's not necessarily a time to take action, yet we have to still take action. We still need to run our lives. And so this is a time to, at least, especially with Mercury retrograde, to double check, to maybe think before we take action. It's not great to start something new right now. It would be better once we get to the sun in Aries, and this will be on March 20th this year. So how are you feeling this time? I know Brenda says that it's wonky energy, what's going on. And as I said, well, we just had the eclipses. It's just a strange time in general, and then that kind of goes on a lot of different levels. So how are you feeling this time? How are you feeling the transition? The big headliner for this week is Jupiter turning direct. And maybe we need, I mean, Jupiter is a pretty big story, but there's not a lot of things going on besides that. And maybe we sort of need that time to catch our breath. But I sort of say that with a caveat. So let's talk about Jupiter. Jupiter, it's a planet that you may know. You can see it in the sky this time of year. It's the largest planet in our solar system. Jupiter, astrologically speaking, it acts as a planet whose symbolic role is to get us to open up, to go beyond ourselves, to question, to seek, to discover, to maybe go out there into the world. Because, and I'm saying this as a Scorpio, sometimes I tell people, imagine a life where nothing happens. Imagine a life where every day is the same. And you're probably thinking, sign me up for that. That sounds really great right about now. But in reality, a life that is never examined, where nothing ever happens, is a life that doesn't grow. Scorpio comes before Sagittarius. Like, why are you talking about Sagittarius and Scorpio? I thought we were talking about Jupiter. Well, Jupiter is the ruling sign of Sagittarius, the ruling planet of Sagittarius. And it reminds us that in order to grow, we need to first step into the energies of Scorpio. We need to get vulnerable. We need to get uncomfortable. We need to look at ourselves. We need to question ourselves. And that's what really brings us into the power of Sagittarius and, by extension, Jupiter. Jupiter is also the ruler of Pisces. It has that dual rulership between Sag, which is more, that's a fire sign. It's a yang sign. And then we have Pisces, which is water, and which is yin. It's reflective, it's internal. And so that's why Pisces season, it's reflective. It's internal, it's a time to go within. And Jupiter in Pisces, although Jupiter hasn't been in Pisces since 2021, 2022, Jupiter in Pisces is about the search within. That's why Pisces has this reputation as a very spiritual sign. It doesn't mean that every Pisces sun sign is spiritual, but Pisces as an archetype is a very spiritual sign because it's looking for answers beyond this world, whereas Sagittarius, it finds us within this world. And so this is a period where we take the energies of Jupiter and we question, why am I here? What is the meaning and purpose of my life? What have I created? What have I built? And we get to different stages throughout the zodiac year or even throughout our lives where we are meant to question. We are meant to ask existential questions. We are meant to seek nourishment in ways that go beyond the physical plane, because maybe you probably know this, and I'm sure money sounds really great right about now, but at the end of the day, you could have all the money in the world, you could have all the riches in the world, but it wouldn't fulfill you because the material signs are not the last sign of the zodiac. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. Pisces represents the finality of our time here on the physical plane, and it represents something that we all need to reach for. It doesn't mean that we do that gracefully. We're humans, and so sometimes we reach Pisces season and we're tired, we're beaten down, we're hopeless, we feel grief, and you're like, wait a second, that's pretty intense. And well, it's the other side of Pisces. It's that water that pulls us into the abyss, and so maybe it's bringing up a lot of emotions this Pisces season. So with Jupiter turning direct tomorrow, Tuesday, March 10th at 15 degrees of Cancer, this is after a 4-month retrograde, it's now pulling the energies of Pisces season, because Jupiter rules Pisces, it's pulling the energies of Pisces season into more of an active expression as opposed to a reflective or internal or yin expression. And so it's going to push the energies of Pisces, and by extension, we have Mars in Pisces right now, we have Mercury in Pisces, I know Mercury is retrograde, and it also, the North Node is in Pisces. So Pisces has got some stuff going on. And it means that Mars is going to have more of an active expression. The North Node is going to have more of an active expression. Mercury is going to have more of an active expression. And so maybe this is why I was like, you know what, with a caveat, it could be a quiet week, but with a caveat, because Jupiter could turn the energies more into an active phase than a receptive phase. And so that's a little thing that I want to flag. But Jupiter as a general influence, it's the ruler of Sag, which is one of the later signs of the zodiac. It's the ruler of Pisces, which is the last sign of the zodiac. And so Jupiter doesn't talk about our day-to-day lives. It doesn't talk about our personality unless you have Jupiter in your sign. It talks about the world. It talks about the world beyond this world. And so Jupiter is really a big focus this week, not just because it rules Pisces season, but when any planet turns direct or retrograde, it infuses its archetypes and energies throughout the collective. So maybe you are dreaming big. Maybe you are asking big questions this week. Maybe you're wondering what's going to happen. Do I have enough? Can I have faith, for example? And that's something, especially with the Pisces sun, and maybe even with Mars North Node and Pisces and Mercury, it is to really cultivate that sacred time with courtesy of Jupiter going direct. We also have Jupiter over in Cancer. It's been in Cancer since June 9th of 2025. So Jupiter in general spends about a year, 13 months in one zodiac sign. It takes 12 years, nearly 12 years to cross the zodiac. So the last time Jupiter was in Cancer was 2013 and into 2014. So you can think back, what was I doing in 2013 and 2014? And so Jupiter in Cancer, it's again in the sign of its exaltation. And this is a little bit of a technical point, but I feel it's an important point to make because it reminds us a little bit more about Jupiter and I think by extension the zodiac. And the zodiac is not just a collection of personality traits. The zodiac is actually a guide and a map that teaches us how to live in harmony with creation. And so Jupiter in its exaltation in Cancer, again, technical point, reminds each and every one of us that Jupiter does its best work in Cancer. If Jupiter helps us to ask big questions, but more importantly, Jupiter makes us want more out of our lives. I can't just keep staying in the same small space. I gotta move. I gotta literally move. I need to learn about something. But Jupiter does its best work in Cancer, the sign of home and family and roots and foundations. And it says that real growth happens when we have a sense of emotional stability and security, where we have either a family or family-like connections. I realize family is a complicated subject matter for most people. We all have a family. Sometimes we don't have a family. But even Jupiter is saying we need a family-like connection. We need people to call our people. We need to be able to put down roots, to feel like we belong someplace, to have a sense of home, even where we live, even if we've lived at that place for a very long time. So Jupiter, it is pulling on these bigger existential questions, but it's also getting right back home with us. What truly matters and is of importance, because Cancer, unlike, let's say, Sagittarius or Pisces, Cancer is one of the first signs of the zodiac. It really talks about the basics of life, and Cancer symbolically sits at the base and foundation of the natural zodiac wheel. So it symbolically represents the foundation, the roots of our lives. And so even if you're thinking, but I have nothing in Cancer, why is this important? But you have Cancer somewhere in your astrology. Cancer also represents an archetype and an energy. We all have a home. Hopefully, if we are so lucky, we have a family. Hopefully we like them. And I'm watching a lot of home renovation shows with my dad. It sort of represents the neutral ground that we can both agree on. And this is one that I'm watching in particular with him that talks a lot about family and community. And I was like, this is so Jupiter and Cancer. Jupiter and Cancer is like, yes, you can travel the world. Yes, you can go meditate in a monastery. Sagittarius and Pisces. Yes, you are a spirit and a body, but don't forget about the things that also matter on this side, to have people that we feel a sense of deep personal connection with, that we can call upon and that we can rely on. And so Jupiter, no planet magically makes things better. It's just like Saturn. As much as I love Saturn, Saturn doesn't magically make things worse or hard. But Saturn, well, in the case, let's say, go back to Jupiter, Jupiter is saying that we have an opportunity right now. It's there. We have to work at it to be able to strengthen our base and our foundation, to put down roots, to work on this concept of family, to make those types of connections, and maybe by extension even to forge community, because there is that sense of personal social bond with Cancer that opens us up to a larger social bond through community and partnership. So what else is going on this week? We also have Mars coming up to the North Node. This is a little bit bigger conversation, but since last July, the North Node of the Moon has been in Pisces. And you're like, what's the North Node? There are these 2 points in the sky. They move like the planets, although they move in an opposite direction. The lunar nodes, these are 2 points that act almost like a compass point in the sky. And they really show what the story arc is, or what we are reaching towards. And since about the end of 2024, we had that first eclipse in Pisces in September of 2024, September 17th. The collective reach doesn't mean that we're all reaching towards there, but the collective reach is towards Pisces. To let go, to have compassion, to work on our spirituality. Of course, maybe it doesn't quite reflect that in your life or even in the world around us, but that's where the North Node is right now. And Mars, which might seem like a strange addition to Pisces, because Mars is so much about desire and personal wants and needs, but Mars is saying we need to transcend our wants, our needs, our desires, and to open up to something that is greater than us. Maybe the wants and needs of the collective or the greater whole. Maybe it's to have more compassion and empathy. But there is an element of the eclipse, like an eclipse ripple this week with Mars on the North Node. And I think this is going to be on the 13th or 14th of March. Really, it's throughout the whole week into next week. So wonky energy, I know. Why is it wonky? We just had a couple of eclipses. We also had Saturn change signs, and Saturn and Neptune. That sort of just adds to the general feel of it. But usually my money is on eclipses for, like, why is everything really weird and wonky right now? It's eclipses. So eclipses plant a seed. And that eclipse that we had back on February 17th, that you're like, that's a month ago. But it plants a seed that we're going to keep returning to throughout the next 6 months and 6 months plus. So that the eclipse was at 28 degrees of Aquarius. And that degree will get activated. It got activated earlier today when the moon crossed 28 degrees of Scorpio. It's going to get activated. We'll have a new moon that, like, I think it's like May 16th at 28 degrees, 27 degrees, 25 degrees of Scorpio or Taurus. We'll have Mars go into Taurus. This will be in June. So there will be different points that we'll keep referring to. But, you know, going back to this week, Mars on the North Node is a ripple of eclipse energy. I mean, I gotta say it, don't start a war when the sun is in Pisces. It's not a great time to start a war. Don't start a war, period. But that's just, hopefully we can all agree on that. So let's look at the astrology for each of the 12 zodiac signs before I forget. I'm looking at my notes. You and me, hopefully you'll join me. I'm having a workshop. This is going to connect us with the energies of the astrological new year. This will be on March 21st, so Saturday, March 21st from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern. It is a 3-hour workshop. It is meant to give you a very holistic and guided space to connect to the astrology of your own astrology, and to connect to the energies of Mars and Aries, and to really consciously chart a course for the coming year. So it's going to be a mixture of teaching and also sharing. It's meant to be intimate, And it's also through different meditation techniques to actually help connect to the energies, because the astrology is just energy. It's to connect to the energies of the astrological new year, Aries, the equinox, and to really try to put yourself into that energy that exists within your own astrology, and to, again, set a new course for the year. So that will be, again, March 21st from 1 to 4 p.m. Eastern. It will be recorded for those that want to do it as a replay. You can go to my website, empoweringastrology.com. I'm calling the workshop Sacred Fire, because we're going to connect to the energy of fire. We also going to have Saturn and Neptune as our guides for this workshop. And you go to my website, empoweringastrology.com, to learn more and to register. And I'm also doing a spring special on consultations. Some of you are my clients, so yes, I do one-on-one consultations. And so you can use the code SPRING26 to get a 10% off on my consultations. So I hope to see you soon. So let's look at each of the 12 zodiac signs. Starting with Aries. Aries, so lots going on in your astrology. You're a little bit in the end of a cycle. So Mars, your planet, it went into Pisces, I believe it was last week. There's just so much going on in the world right now, so it's hard to keep up. I think it was last week. And what it says that until April 9th, you're in this period where it's about going within. It's Pisces season. Mars happens to be in Pisces. Doesn't always work out that way. And so it's saying rest, go within, prioritize your spirituality, detach, and I mean that in a healthy way, let go, make peace, clear space, clear psychic space, because when Mars goes into Aries on April 9th, it's a very different chapter and cycle for you. And as you've probably been hearing me say for the last whatever amount of weeks, Saturn is now in Aries. It's been in Aries since February 13th. And so you have a big player in your astrology, and it will be in your astrology until April of 2028. And when Mars goes into when Mars goes into Aries on April 9th, it will also meet up with the energies of Saturn and Neptune. So we can talk about that later. And maybe what I'm trying to say, which I already said already, use this time to rest and to reflect. That's where the action of your astrology is happening at the moment. Although, of course, when the sun goes into Aries on March 20th this year, that will begin to shift your season. Jupiter is about to turn direct. Jupiter is in your sign of home and family and roots and foundation. And Jupiter has been in this space since June 9th. Sorry, my brain is in retrograde today. June 9th of last year, 2025. And so whenever Jupiter comes to a sign, that area we typically want more. So since June of 2025, you want more in family or home or roots or foundation. So maybe you're thinking about moving, maybe you have moved, maybe you want to grow your family, maybe it's a little bit more complicated than that, and you're really trying to figure out a way to prioritize the things that actually feed you and nourish you. And that's where a lot of the astrology is pushing you towards. Yes, it's new beginnings, Saturn in Aries, but Jupiter in Cancer is saying, don't forget about the things that are truly important. You can work 60-hour work weeks, but Cancer is always there to remind you that at the end of your life, I'm being a Scorpio for a second, but at the end of your life, you don't wish that you worked more. You wish that you spent more time with the people that you truly loved and cared about. So Jupiter is kind of whispering into your ear this week, don't forget about the things that truly matter. Taurus. So Venus is your planet, and as of the end of last week, Venus went into Aries. So what was going on for you this past Friday, Saturday, Sunday? Because when Venus went into Aries, it met up with Saturn and Neptune. And Venus rules you. So Venus is a very important planet in your astrology. It leads and guides you. And with Venus in Aries, at least until the end of this month, I think it's like the 30th of March, it goes into Taurus, your sign, you've stepped into a space that is going to take a larger priority in your life into the next 2 years because Saturn is there. Saturn in your 12th sign, Aries is your 12th sign, says that your priority and focus into April 2028 is either your spirituality, peace, letting go, going within, building a deeper sense of meaning and purpose in your life. And I know that I'm really speaking about big subject matters, and it's for you to really, there's my doggy, it's for you to figure out what this means for you in your own life. So why am I asking about Friday, Saturday, and Sunday? Because Venus was activating that story that is going to be with you for the next 2, if not more, years. Venus to Saturn asks about a commitment. It can set a boundary. It can say one chapter of your life is over. It's time for another chapter. So again, it's to really check in on what was going on in your own life. Jupiter is about to turn direct. So Jupiter has been in your 3rd sign of voice, communication, how you think and listen and learn. It's been there since the beginning of June of 2025. So wherever Jupiter is, we typically want more of that space. And when Jupiter is in the 3rd, you want more curiosity, you want more travel, you want more education. It's a time to write, to speak, to communicate, to be curious, to learn. And at this point, I think it's been, 6, 7, 8, 9 months with Jupiter. I can't do math. Jupiter in Cancer, Jupiter in this part of your astrology. So what do you notice? Have you noticed more travel in the last 9 months? Have you noticed this desire to learn, to be curious? Or have you started a manuscript? Are you a writer? Are you speaking more? Are you using your voice more? And maybe when Jupiter turns direct tomorrow, the 10th of March, it now is time to say something. It's time to move, to travel. So it's to see how that story that's been there the last 9 months starts to become more active than receptive. And Jupiter did turn retrograde. I think it was back in October. I'd have to look for it. So not October, November. It turned retrograde in November. Gemini, so Mercury is your planet, and as you know, since last week or so, I think it's 2 weeks ago, Mercury is retrograde. So this is just your time every 3 months. Mercury turns retrograde every 3 months to go within, to not go forward. That's the thing about Gemini, is that as a sign in general, it is active. It is young energy. It needs to learn. It needs to try. It needs to do. And so when Mercury turns retrograde, it says, hey, Gemini, slow down. It's okay. Listen to your intuition. Listen to your gut. Try to process what is it that you actually have been doing and be more reflective as opposed to just sort of being on autopilot sometimes. And so it's like you need that time just to slow down. And that said, Mercury is in Pisces, and Pisces is your 10th sign of career. It's your public life, your public reputation. And so this is a period where on some level you need to return to something. It's interesting because it's the same space, and I said this to you last week, this is the same space that Saturn was in 2023, 2024, 2025, and into the beginning of 2026. You have already been through a period the last few years where you needed to really step up in your life, to take on more responsibilities, have a title change, become a parent, have a big change in your career. And so with Mercury retrograde there's something that is either unfinished or you need to get a second look at, maybe to make a different choice, because that's sometimes the beauty of Mercury retrograde is that it gives you the opportunity to make a different choice. Mercury will be retrograde, I think it's until next week. I have to go back and look, until next week. So something is happening in either your professional, your public life, your career that maybe is sort of coming to a head because Mars is there. Mars is in your career sector until April 9th. We don't have eclipses here, but we will have it is going to be not a solar eclipse. It's going to be a new moon next week on March 18th. And so that sort of pushes to the forefront this energy around Mercury retrograde, around your career, and it just says that it is a very busy time for you where more duties and responsibilities are being asked of you. But don't forget, Mercury's retrograde. It doesn't mean that your life comes to a halt, but it means that you just need to be more conscientious about the choices that you're making, how you speak, and how you communicate. Then there's Jupiter. Jupiter is turning direct tomorrow, March 10th. Jupiter actually is a major player in Gemini's astrology. It governs your career, it governs your relationships, and it's turning direct in something called your second sign of money, income, material stability, and security. Over the last 4 months, when Jupiter is retrograded, you needed to go within. You needed to reevaluate, a second look at how you either spend your money or what you value, or even how you value yourself, your relationship with material stability and security. And so with Jupiter turning direct, maybe something that has either been on pause or something that you've been waiting for something to come through, maybe that it can now come through in your life. It could be about a relationship, it could be around your career. But the energy of your career and relationships is pointing exactly to a place that is about security, stability, really putting down roots and making choices that are actually going to create stability and security in your life. Cancer. So the moon is your planet, and this week the moon has gone from the end of Scorpio. So Scorpio is something called your fifth sign, and it goes into Sagittarius for the next couple of days. It's about health and wellness and work and projects. And then you get towards the end of this week, the moon goes into Capricorn. It's about relationships, and maybe I think by Sunday the moon will go into Aquarius, so it sort of touches into deeper emotional themes, and it is coming full circle because we did have that solar eclipse back on February 17th. This bigger time in your life that takes you into August of 2026, where your emotional health and wellness, how you take care of yourself, greater themes about intimacy, trust, vulnerability, a need to completely transform yourself. These are themes that are really at the forefront again and over the next 5 months. So with the moon going back into Aquarius this weekend, you're really beginning to just maybe start to pick up on what those themes mean for you and your astrology as you go throughout March and even beyond March. That said, we are having Jupiter turn direct this week, March 10th, and Jupiter is turning direct in Cancer. Hey, you're a Cancer. So every 12 years, I know 12 years, but every 12 years Jupiter comes to Cancer. So you have to go all the way back to 2013 and 14. I think it was, probably like June 2013 to June of 2014 when Jupiter was last in Cancer. When Jupiter comes to our sign, whether it's our sun sign, whether it's our rising signs, whether you're Cancer sun or Cancer rising, it brings you into the start of a new journey, a new adventure. Jupiter, as I've been saying for some of the other signs, it's a planet that makes us want more out of life. I want more. I want more out of my career. I want more adventure. I want more, whatever it is that makes sense to your life. You want more of it. So Jupiter over the last 9 months has been inspiring you, motivating you, getting you to set your sights on greater horizons. Sometimes Jupiter can make us bigger. Sometimes it's a pregnancy, and it's not obviously not going to be relevant for everybody. But Jupiter can give us confidence. We can feel a sense of nourishment, and maybe you're thinking, hey, I'm still waiting for my Jupiter windfall, but sometimes Jupiter works in a way that is relevant to your life and how you express Cancer. So Jupiter will be in Cancer until the end of June of 2026, so not that much longer. But it's a good I think a good time to check in this week, especially as Jupiter turns direct, like what do you feel? Like what's surging forward? Is it emotional? Do you feel like now you're ready to take that leap of faith or to set forward on a path? Because Jupiter is also the seeker and the explorer. Yes, we want more out of life, but ultimately Jupiter is a very, it's like the planet that leads us to the end of the zodiac. Why am I here? What is the meaning and purpose of my life? To want more is to also want more for your spirit and your soul. And Jupiter turning direct also pulls upon Mars and Pisces, the North Node, and Mercury in Pisces as well. There are big questions around faith that are being activated this week and into next week. Faith doesn't have to be the faith of religion, but faith could be the faith of getting up in the morning that everything's going to be okay, or the faith that you can do it, that you have the courage and the confidence and even the capability to be able to achieve your goals. But sometimes faith is faith. Faith that there's something more to our lives, that that's something, just maybe even something better. So it's something to reflect on this week, because Jupiter is pulling not just upon your sign, but it's also pulling upon big questions. And at the end of the day, you know, Jupiter is at the beginning of a long journey, and it's really setting you up towards a new path, a new adventure that'll lead you for the next 12 years. Leo, so the sun is your planet, and every year when the sun gets into Pisces, it doesn't just reach the end of the zodiac, it reaches something called your 8th sign. In our astrology, each sign of the zodiac, I know you're a Leo, but there's 11 other signs. Each sign of the zodiac represents a different part or domain of your life. So there's relationships, there's career, there's health, there's home, for example. And the 8th sign, it's kind of different in the sense that its job is to get you to look at yourself. That sounds simple. Well, I mean to sometimes really look at yourself, because the 8th is where we have to examine ourselves, we have to question ourselves. If you've ever been to therapy, you've been to the 8th, because that's where the real growth and transformation happens. So Pisces season is leading you through this space. I know Pisces season will be done on March 20th, and so it's a little bit of an internal time. You know, keep this in mind, because we will have a Pisces new moon next week. Jupiter, it is turning direct, and it's going to pull upon these bigger emotional themes: trust, vulnerability, power, control, reinvention, transformation, as Jupiter turns direct in something called your 12th sign. Jupiter has been in your 12th sign since the beginning of June of 2025. The 12th is a space that takes you beyond this world. It is your spirituality. It is your inner search. It is your search within to find a deeper sense of meaning and purpose, to fulfill yourself, to nourish yourself. And it's also the last sort of space before the end of a great journey, because I think it's the end of June 30th, Jupiter will go into Leo. It's a new cycle. We'll talk about that in June. But in the meantime, there's a lot of emotional water energy that's getting activated in your astrology. Water is both emotional. It is an energy, it's an element that prepares us for a new cycle, a new chapter. And in order for something to come into your life, it sometimes means that something has to leave. Even if it's you saying goodbye to something, letting go, detaching, or something telling you that it's time to go. So sit with whatever is coming up this week. It might feel emotional, it might be a time where you actually feel that Jupiter push to really sit with yourself, to listen, to cultivate your intuition. But whatever you receive, whatever insights you receive, it's really trying to set you up and prepare you for that new cycle to come when Jupiter goes into Leo at the end of June. Virgo, so Mercury is your planet, and Mercury, as you know, it's retrograde, and I'm sort of resurfacing a little bit of what we talked about last week because it's still relevant. Let's go back to 2023, 2024, 2025, and into the beginning of 2026. Saturn was in your relationship sign. Now Saturn has moved on, but that period from March of 2023 to February of 2026 represented a time where you needed to really prioritize relationship, your connection with other people, your existing relationships, to build them, to change them, to end them, to start them. And also to remind you that you can't do life alone. Even as capable as you are, Virgo rising, you can't do life alone. So with Mercury in this space and Mercury retrograde, in a way, it's bringing you back to a space that you need to look at from a different point of view. Maybe you need to retrace your steps from events from 2024 and 5 when Mercury is walking the same path as Saturn walked. Maybe relationships are coming back up for you to tie up some loose ends or to make a different choice. Sometimes Mercury retrograde gives us an opportunity to make a different choice. So see, reflect, feel into how is what you're going through right now an echo perhaps to the past couple of years around relationships and connections. Mercury will turn direct, I think it's next week. We will have a Pisces new moon next week, so relationships sort of get pushed even into April. We'll keep talking about that, but use this time because a retrograde is yin. It's not yang, it's yin. It's reflective, it's intuitive. It needs to get quiet, and if you're still trying to punch the gas, it's not a time to do it. Just listen to yourself, listen to your intuition, listen to your higher self, and maybe you'll receive the information that you're looking for. Jupiter is turning direct. Jupiter is a major player in your astrology. It's a relationship planet. It's also the planet that talks about your home and family, your past, your memories. And Jupiter turning direct, it's turning direct in something called your 11th sign. The 11th sign is about our friends, our community, our place in the world, our connection to something greater. And Jupiter in general has been saying since the end or the beginning of June 2025, it's time to grow this space. It's time to want more out of life, more community, more connection, more friendship. This could mean your social life is more active, or maybe you're trying to get more involved in social issues or social causes. And so as Jupiter turns direct to tomorrow, March 10th at 15 degrees of Cancer, just know like what's happening this week. What's happening this week around friendships and community? What's happening this week around social issues, or wanting to play a different role in the world, or maybe it's about something in your living situation, or maybe it's something about a partnership, and how that's really coming to the forefront. Because when a planet turns direct or retrograde, it can sometimes bring events around that point. So there you go. Libra. So Venus is your planet, and as you know, as of last week, Venus is in Aries. So Aries is your relationship sign, and I want to go back to Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So just a few days ago, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday was yesterday. What was going on the past few days? Was something happening within relationships? Was something happening in your life, especially around commitment or choice or responsibilities or duties, or maybe getting a sense that something is going to a different stage in your life? Maybe you're like, what is she talking about? Because when Venus went into Aries last week on the 6th of March, it began to occupy the same space as Saturn and Neptune. Neptune's a separate conversation, although really it's not, but we only have so much time. But Saturn will be in your relationship sign until April of 2028. And Saturn is saying to you, it's time to take relationships seriously. You're like, I take it really seriously. I'm a Libra. But I think what I've been saying, maybe it's to clients, maybe I said it here, I can't remember, but I feel like Saturn is saying to Libra rising, you do a lot, Libra. Oftentimes you put a lot of other people before you. And this isn't going to be relevant for every Libra or Libra rising, but Saturn is saying, how do you put balance back into your life? If you have put the needs of others first to your own detriment, then Saturn is saying you have to rectify that imbalance. if relationships are sort of generally not happening, and I don't mean like, of course, romantic relationships, but relationships as a general, or in general, Saturn is also saying it's time to prioritize this part of your life. It's trying to make connections or make relationship. So listen, I'm just sort of using those as some examples, but listen to what has been going on in your life the past few days, because it's really setting you up for a much bigger chapter that's going to take you into 2028 and even later. It's not Aries season yet. We have to get to March 20th. Right now, the focus is on something called your 6. Work, projects, health and wellness, your day-to-day duties and responsibilities. But I just sort of want to put Aries season on your radar, because when the sun goes into Aries on March 20th, much like Venus going into Aries on March 6th, it's going to activate and energize this part of your life and this part of your astrology. But let's go back to your 6th sign. It is Pisces season. You have Mars, you have Mercury in Pisces, and there's, especially with Mercury retrograde, you've needed to go back and take a second look at something from your past. It could be a responsibility from the past. It could be a health matter that you haven't quite sorted out yet. It could be a project that you need to return to, but something from the past needs your attention right now, Libra. And it is related potentially to something from 2023, 4 and 5. And that's when Saturn was in this space. Maybe not. But it's a bigger time to really get clear about what you're committing to, and the duties and responsibilities that you're prioritizing in your life right now. Jupiter is turning direct. It's turning direct tomorrow, March 10th. It's turning direct in something called your 10th sign, your career, your public life, your public reputation, the role that you play in the world. And Jupiter has been in this space since June 9th of 2025. And typically wherever Jupiter is, that space, we want more out of it. I want more out of my career. I want to make a job change. I want to make a career change. I want to grow my career. I want to grow my duties and responsibilities in the world. I want to get a title, for example. So really look back at the last 9 months at how there has been some career growth. And if you're like, no, there hasn't been any career growth, Jupiter will be in Cancer just until the end of June 2026. So use this time to take a leap, to take a risk. I mean, a good, healthy risk, to nourish your public life, your public duties, your public reputation, to be Jupiter in the world, which is to be benevolence or to help people. Really listen for how this is showing up in your life. Scorpio, so Mars is your planet, and Mars is presently in Pisces, so it's bringing the energy of your sign to something called your 5th. This will be until April 9th. The 5th is a time for you to express your creativity, it is also to express yourself. It is a space that is about identity and the self. Now, there, of course, is positive expressions of identity in the self. There's negative expressions of identity in the self. If you don't feel confident, that's a negative expression of identity and self. But overall, Mars is really motivating you and inspiring you. You are ruled by Mars to really get back to the things that light you up and give you joy. Maybe, especially with Mercury retrograde here, to return to something that maybe that you had started. It could be a project, it could be a creative project, it could be something that was really more of a focus in 2024 and 5 when Saturn was here, to return to something that maybe is unfinished, or maybe there's a loose end. So Mercury is retrograde in this space. I believe it turns direct next week. I can't remember. Too many things happening in the world, too many things on my radar. But with Mercury there, use this time to go back to something. And maybe it was a priority 2 years ago, and maybe you forgot about it. And Mercury is saying reprioritize it in your life, for example. But the beauty of the 5th, and it takes 2 years for Mars to get back to this space, so you'd have to go back to April 2024 and May of 2024 for Mars to be in Pisces, is it helps you to revitalize yourself. It helps you to get that spark back. You can use that to get your mojo back. You can use that to do something creative, something that is fun and playful, and maybe that's exactly what you need to do right now, Scorpio. Jupiter is turning direct. It is turning direct in something called your 9th sign. So Jupiter has been in your 9th sign since the beginning of June of 2025. And wherever Jupiter is, we generally want more out of that part of our life. And so when Jupiter is in the 9th, it's in a space that it naturally loves to be in, the 9th. And so this is a time to really expand your horizons, to travel, to explore, to see the world. Sometimes we can't physically go see the world, but there's this need to kind of get out there with Jupiter in this part of your astrology. It could also be educational. Maybe you have a desire to take classes or even to go back to school. But for some Scorpios, it is getting into these bigger questions about what is right and what is wrong. Because the 9th also helps us to shape a sense of, this is what we do, this is what we don't do, this is what I value, this is what I believe in, this is what I stand for, this is what I think is true, these are my convictions. And so maybe Jupiter is giving you an opportunity to share your convictions, to share what you believe and what you stand for, hopefully in a positive and healthy way. But that also might come in the form of really standing up for something, sometimes even standing up for a person, because Jupiter in this space, really it's about sharing sometimes a message. Jupiter can also be a torch, and to really, take the things that light you up and give you joy and give you passion, take the things that you've discovered and to use it like a torch to help people to see what is out there, what is possible. So this could be a week where you are really having to talk more about either your faith or the life that you've lived, or to tell your story. And that could be a way for you to get back to what is it that makes you, you. Sagittarius. So Jupiter is your planet, and it's been retrograde since, it's been retrograde since November. I think it was like November 11th, November of 2025. And when Jupiter, your planet, turns retrograde, it doesn't mean that suddenly your life is not moving. It means that it's a yin phase. It's a time to go within. It's a time to reflect. Our lives cannot always go forward. The only 2 signs of the zodiac that have their planets always moving forward are Leo and Cancer. So the sun and the moon, they never go retrograde. So for you, Jupiter turning retrograde, it says that over the past 4 months, you've needed to go within. You've needed to see things from a different perspective. Now, Jupiter has been retrograde in something called your 8th sign. And when Jupiter is in the 8th sign, where the energy of your life is being pulled to at the moment, is a lot of internal reflection and internal transformation. It's a very psychological time. The greater growth is happening in spaces around intimacy, trust, and vulnerability. If you're one to do personal work or work with a therapist or a counselor, this is also a way in which you could use Jupiter's time in Cancer. Jupiter in Cancer for you could also mean like getting into uncomfortable subject matter. Maybe it's about family, maybe it's about the past, maybe it's about memories. But the discomfort of the 8th sign is necessary because it really allows for the transformation that can take you into the rest of the chart. Jupiter is a sign, or Sagittarius is a sign that's known for its wisdom and knowledge. How does it get wisdom and knowledge? It has to go through the 8th. The second half of this year, so roughly July 1st and onwards, is going to be very different than the first half of the year. Use this time to reflect, to search, to go within, to pull back the illusions, to see yourself, to excavate, to do the archaeology, so to speak, with your family and your past and your memories, because that's the time that you're going to have to do it. You're not going to be able to do it in the second half of the year. This could also be a time that's about financial matters, needing to set up estate planning or financial planning, or looking at spending, even looking at debt. But like I said, when Jupiter goes into Leo, which is a fire sign just like you, on June 30th, it's going to be a very different second half of 2026 and even into 2027. What else is going on? So yeah, Jupiter direct, and that is pretty much it. So Capricorn. Capricorn says Saturn is your planet, and Saturn, as you know, has been the last 4 weeks in Aries. So I'm just going to keep checking in, Capricorn, like how are you doing? What's going on? Have you noticed a shift or change in your life over the last 4 weeks, roughly? Because Saturn going to Aries marks a very different stage and chapter in a much bigger story, because Saturn takes 30 years to go through the zodiac, and so it takes 2 to 3 years in each of the 12 zodiac signs. Your focus and priority until April 2028 roughly is home, family, roots, foundation, past, memories. We're early in the story, although you did get a preview. This would have been June, July, and August of 2025. That's not the big focus right now in terms of just where the planets are for this week, but it's still the macro focus over the next 2 years. And Jupiter is turning direct. Jupiter is turning direct in something called your relationship sign. So Jupiter has been in your relationship sign since June 9th of 2025. It'll be there until the end of June of 2026. And wherever Jupiter is, we typically want more. I want more connection. I want more relationship. If you have an existing partnership, it's also to really expand the role of relationship and partnership in your life. It is to renew it. It is to feel nurtured by it. I realize that's not always going to be so easy, or perhaps even the case for everybody listening. If you are not in a relationship and that's something you desire, use Jupiter's time in your 7th, because it's only going to be in your 7th until the end of June of 2026. Wherever Jupiter is, I know it says it makes us want more, but it also can give us opportunities. And so listen or observe or reflect on what is happening this week around the subject matter of family, home. I've got home, about relationships. Sorry, my brain is in retrograde. And it might start to show you what this time is generally about in terms of Jupiter in your relationship sign, Capricorn. Aquarius. So Saturn is your planet. And I said this to Capricorn because you're both ruled by Saturn. I'm going to say it to you. So what have you noticed in the last 4 weeks, apart from just the world falling apart? But what have you noticed in your own life? Saturn is your planet. Saturn rules you. So wherever Saturn is, it pulls the energy of you. And it says that for about a 2 to 3 year period, this is your focus. This is your priority. And you had that, say, 2023 to 2026 when Saturn was when Pisces, but you had that change on February 13th when Saturn went to Aries. So do you notice a shift and change in your life? You also had an eclipse in your sign. It's just a big time in general to be in Aquarius or an Aquarius rising. It says it's just big changes. I know you're like, I don't want big changes, Katie, but I'm so sorry you are an Aquarius or Aquarius rising. I mean, I can think off the top of my head of an Aquarius rising client who is getting a new job and is moving across the country. I think that fits the bill for that type of level of change. Now, not everybody is going to do that who has Aquarius or Aquarius rising when with the eclipse that was in Aquarius just 3-4 weeks ago. But that said, just begin to know what is shifting, what is transitioning in your life. Saturn is in Aries. It's a fire sign. Fire is about action, renewal, and new beginnings. Maybe because we're still in Pisces season, Mercury is retrograde. We're not quite seeing fully what this is about. But on March 20th, Saturn will go into Aries. Even April 9th, Mars will go into Aries. We're going to start to get more energy in this part of your life, and then you're going to begin to see what is this new period of your life about. Then there's Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter is turning direct this week. Jupiter is a planet that makes us want more out of life. And, it went into Cancer, your sixth sign of health and wellness, of work and projects, back on June 9th. And wherever Jupiter is, typically that area is working out. We have opportunities. It's easier. It's not Saturn. Saturn typically is a little bit of a harder go. But Jupiter is saying, like, use this time to make positive changes in your health and wellness, your diet, your fitness, your nutrition. Use this time to rededicate yourself to your practices, your daily rituals, your craft, the projects, again, that you work on, because there is a real sort of spiritual quality to Jupiter's time in the sixth. It's about bringing that sense of meaning and purpose and even spirituality to your day-to-day rituals, crafts, and practices, even doing the dishes, for example. So just as I was saying with Saturn, being in your third for the last 4 weeks, listen for Jupiter. Listen for what this time means for you and what is shifting and changing around health and wellness, or shifting and changing around your day-to-day projects or work, and how you've seen that be a source of growth for the last 9 months. Jupiter will only be in this space until the end of June of 2026. Then it's going to go into your relationship sign, and the second half of the year is going to really be a very different part of the year. I know that there's big changes this side of the year, but you're going to have Jupiter in Leo, you're going to have eclipses in Leo, and it's just a different type of energy as you get into the second half of the year. So maybe you need to put things in order, have a system, clean things out, and to make space for the new things to come. Pisces. So Jupiter is your planet, and Jupiter is turning direct. So if you go back to June 9th of 2025, your planet Jupiter has been in Cancer. So Cancer, like you, is a fellow water sign, and Jupiter is giving you this time in Cancer to re-nourish yourself, to get back to the things that light you up and give you joy and give you passion. It's helping you to slow down. Jupiter in Cancer, I don't think, is in a rush. And it's been a lot, at least on the astrology side of things, it's been a lot for Pisces and Pisces rising over the past few years. So my question for you, Pisces, is what have you noticed? What have you noticed with Jupiter in Cancer since June of 2025? Maybe you're thinking, I've noticed nothing. Or maybe it's been very subtle, or maybe you feel more confident, or maybe you're reaching for confidence, or trying to find confidence, or maybe you're trying to bring more creativity into your life. But this is a time, especially with Jupiter in Cancer, it's in its exaltation. It's only going to be in Cancer until the end of June. So use this time wisely. Nourish yourself. Prioritize the things that actually have meaning and purpose for you. I know we all have to pay the bills. We have work. We need to keep the lights on. But if we don't feed ourselves, metaphorically speaking, if we don't really kind of get into that, I don't mean like physically feed ourselves. I don't even mean like, stuff. I mean to like nourish your spirit. That's going to really set you up as we go into the second half of 2026 and beyond. So there you go. That is your look at the astrology of this week, March 9th through 15th of 2026. So hopefully next week my brain will not be in retrograde. And I appreciate you all. I hang in there. I know it's a lot going on right now, and it is wonky to say the least. But for those that want to book a consultation with me, I work one-on-one with people. And as I said at the beginning, I am doing a spring consultation promotion, so you can get 10% off with the code SPRING26. So SPRING26. I know it's not spring for everybody. We are an international audience, but it is going to be spring here. It was very warm today. And you can follow me online at empoweringastrology.com. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Spotify, I'm on YouTube. And I hope that you can join me for my workshop on March 21st, because we're really going to make some magic together, really get into not just learning about something, but actually moving into the energies. So join me for Sacred Fire on March 21st from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern. It is recorded, and it's meant to really become a container and to re-actualize you in your astrology and to set you up and to plot a course for the next 12 months. So there you go. That is your look at the astrology this week, and I will see you all next week. Take care.